Hi guys, this is John Nieves, and with the looming entry of former Oppo sub-brand Realme in the Philippines, it only felt right to compare one of its initial offerings to its eventual competition in the Philippines. And one of those phones is the Cherry Mobile Flare S7 Plus. It's going to be roughly at the same price point of the Realme 2 Pro once it launches and once the company officially opens its doors here. It's only natural that both phones be the subjects of today's video comparison. So let's start with the build. Both phones look great, but the devil is in the details. The Realme 2 Pro may look like it has a glass back, but don't be fooled, it uses a plastic rear. It's been laminated and treated to look like glass, but in the end, it's still plastic. The S7 Plus meanwhile uses a real glass back and is devoid of any of Cherry Mobile's branding. That glass panel isn't only for decoration, as it allows the phone to use the key wireless charging standard, which the Realme 2 Pro doesn't have. Let's move on to the display. The Flare S7 Plus has a 6.18-inch Full HD Plus True View IPS display with a 19:9 aspect ratio plus Gorilla Glass 3 protection, while the Realme Pro 2 has a 6.3-inch Full HD Plus LTPS IPS dewdrop display, also with Gorilla Glass protection. Just looking at the phones, you can see that the Realme 2 Pro has an overall smaller notch, while the Flare S7 Plus has a larger than average notch. While the Flare S7 Plus has a bigger notch than the Realme 2 Pro, the notch does contain an IR camera, which allows for face unlocks even during low light conditions. Moving on to the internals. Both phones sport mid-range processors. The S7 Plus has a Helio P60 chipset, while the Realme 2 Pro has a Snapdragon 660 processor. While MediaTek's Helio P60 is pretty powerful, we still prefer Qualcomm's Snapdragon 660 for raw computational power and graphical performance. RAM and storage configurations are where the two phones differ greatly. Right now, Cherry Mobile is only offering the 4GB, 64GB variant of the S7 Plus. Realme hasn't officially said what the variants of the Realme 2 Pro will show up in stores in the Philippines, but here they have a lot of flexibility because the Realme 2 Pro starts at 4GB and goes all the way up to 8GB of RAM and 64GB all the way to 128GB for storage. For cameras, the two smartphones have dual cameras at the rear, with the Flare S7 Plus sporting a 16-megapixel f2.0 and 5-megapixel f2.4 combination. The Realme 2 Pro, meanwhile, has a 16-megapixel f1.7 and 2-megapixel rear camera. Capacity-wise, the Realme 2 Pro has a bigger battery at 3500 mAh, with the Flare S7 Plus only coming in at just 3000 mAh. Cherry Mobile's offering, however, has wireless charging capability, plus a USB Type-C connector, which can't be matched by Realme's mid-ranger since it doesn't have a former and only has a micro USB port for charging. Here's where it gets a little dicey. For pricing, Cherry Mobile's Flare S7 Plus is priced at around 11,990. As of writing, it's only available for people who pre-order it through Cherry Mobile's site and through mall events where buyers get around 6,000 pesos worth of freebies, including wireless chargers. The Realme 2 Pro, however, isn't locally available yet, though pricing starts around 10,000 pesos directly converted from its Indonesian pricing when Realme officially announced its expansion to Southeast Asia. That's for the basic 4GB and 64GB version of the phone. So that's pretty much it for this particular comparo. We're still waiting for Realme to officially launch the Realme 2 Pro in the Philippines to really see how much it'll be and how it'll stack up against its competition locally.